Brixton is hands down my favorite place in all of London.
Legend.
It's my wife's favorite.
Wow.
It's my boy's favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
And I find that fascinating because, you know, we've seen a lot of London, but they feel most at home in Brixton.
Wow.
But when I'm in Brixton today, like 2019, 2020, right, in Brixton,
yeah,
you know what everybody tells me? This is not the way it used to be.
Agreed.
They're like, this is not the way it used to be.
Yeah.
But they almost say it nostalgic, like it was better.
It was.
Break down. What was Brixton? Because I feel you're a son of Brixton.
I mean, born and bred.
Bring me back to Brixton,
yeah.
the Brixton you knew.
Do you know what? Being in it, I didn't see it like the outsiders saw it. So it was actually a no-go zone for most people. So there was quite popular kind of landmarks. So we've got like certain nightclubs that are there, like the Fridge, which was a huge kind of nightclub and spot.
Okay.
We got Dog Star, which is a really kind of famous pub that's still there till this day. And people would actually want to go to those venues, but literally they knew that there was a risk, you know? So they would come and they would tread cautiously. And sometimes like the moment they're done, they are out of there, like out of the vicinity. And that was the closest they got to Brixton. And that was outside of the actual estates.
Wow, okay.
You know, the project housing areas, like that was outside of that. So in that, it was very like Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah.
You know, huge Afro-Caribbean. Like I actually didn't know I was British 20 years ago, but I knew I was Brixton. For
Really?
sure. Oh, absolutely.
You associated yourself differently.
Totally.
Really?
Yeah, I was Brixton. I didn't know so much about, I had the Burgundy book, you know, but other than that, like Brixton is home. Like even to this day, I might even travel somewhere. They'll be like, oh, what, you from the Caribbean? I'm like, no, they're like, you got a Caribbean twang and now you speak. I'm like, I'm from Brixton.
Yeah.
That was like little Jamaica.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
All my girlfriends growing up were all Jamaican.
Really? Okay.
My wife
See,
is
now
Jamaican.
I like you even better.
Oh, my man. You know? So literally, that's just the lay of the land. Like, I was actually raised partially by a group of people that was associated with a place called Rasta House.
Okay.
And it's actually a place that's in Lambeforso, not directly in Brixton, but literally just on the outside of it, that Bob Marley actually bought.
Really?
Yeah, he bought it for the Rastafarian community.
In Brixton?
In literal Kennerton Oval, but it's literally a stone throw from Brixton. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, he bought it for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much history. You know, there's what is it? Actually, one of my favorite museums is the Black History Museum.
Yeah.
Right on, what's that? Is it, not I want to say Cold Harbor, is that?
It is off the Cold Harbor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Literally.
Incredible.
BCA.
Yeah,
Black Cultural
BCA.
Archive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And looking at how basically Brixton birthed the first black millionaires
Yeah.
in all of the UK. You know, it's incredible history. And I think that's why we love going back. But then I think about, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Because when I say I'm going to Brixton,
Yeah.
you know what when I jump in a cab, they'll say, to this day,
Yeah.
they'll say, well, why are you going there?
Wow.
These cab drivers,
Yeah.
why are you going to Brixton? So I did, so help me to understand, okay, we know the Afro-Caribbean, the beautiful
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
What was the underbelly of Brixton?
You know what? It was an experiment, or I would say a reaction. So through the Commonwealth, you know, which was all the kind of colonized countries or colonies are able to have a level of access, you know, to share and to create some sort of fairer ecosystem after the empire and all, you know,
Right.
the effect of that. What that basically turned out to be was that if you came from a particular country that was a previous colony, you can get an access into the UK. You know, that was a thing. That's how my parents got here. That's how a lot of Africans and Caribbeans got in. And then an area like Brixton is where they would actually place us. Yeah?
Yeah.
But these areas in Brixton, to be able to house everyone, it was basically sardines.
Yes.
So everyone's kind of really jam-packed, really quite small houses. I don't even houses, small flats, literally 2 bedrooms. Like, and I mean, with like, it's just overcrowded. And the architecture, the design of it.
Are these the council? These
are the council estates. I mean, it is an accident waiting to happen. It was almost on one level created as forts. it looked quite intimidating even to the outside. And when you're inside, it feels like you're kept.
Right.
Like you are retained, you are here.
Yeah.
You know, like there was a few like estates like Stockwell Park Estate, Angeltown Estate and Mitesford Estate, which are very notorious estates in Brixton. You could get from one estate to the other without touching the ground. You could literally walk over kind of like landings and tower kind of shaped things, and literally it just made, especially with the dealing at the time, it made it very hard for the police to be able to knuckle down and actually get. And then as a result, things happen when you put people in a certain situation. And my estate, a lot of us, it had old people's homes and mental institutions in the estate.
In the estate.
Yeah, in the estate.
Yeah.
So it's almost like some social engineering that. Yeah.
It's a pressure cooker, right? You know, in the States we call them projects.
Yeah.
And it's the same setup. But what I've noticed to be different here, and I don't know if this was the case in Brixton, is that what I noticed is that like in the States, like we'll have just all the projects are on that side of the railroad track, basically.
Got you.
Right? And then if you want to go to the higher income housing, it's all the way on that side.
Got you.
What I feel like here, at least throughout London, is that you've got council estates, and then right next door you've got...
Absolutely. Daniel and Cobb's £1 million houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that Brixton too, or
no? That's what I'm saying. Brixton was a unique beast. It was definitely quite unique. Do you know what it is? It used to be Brixton. So Brixton was where the electric avenue, this is where the electricity is generated. That's why it's called Electric Avenue. It had the Morley's department store, which was like the Selfridges of that time, you know, and this is where the wealthy Charlie Chaplin lived there. Van Gogh lived there. I mean, it was it was for the affluent initially. And then like they had a bit of a migration, and then all the Afro kind of Caribbean was deposited there, but not in the same sort of houses. So what used to be like a maisonette for one person has now been broken down and turned into 7 homes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I follow
so
you.
that was what it was. But mind you, there was like a postcode neighbor in it would be like SE11, which is Kennington. One of those smallest postcodes in London. No, I think it is the smallest postcode in London. And there is some very affluent homes over there.
Gotcha.
You know, so you could literally, with Brixton, not across the road, no. Because across the road was, again, more tower blocks and more kind of like dodgy architecture. Like Summer Leighton Estate itself, which is another estate in Brixton, was about 70% to completion to be a prison.
Okay.
And about 70% through, they just turned it into houses. So it's got the same level of window size you can hardly see.
So it was a prison.
It was an actual prison.
Yeah.
You know, that's like...
You know, you talk about like the social engineering of it is that I think around the world, what happens is that we try to basically exclude a certain demographic.
Agreed.
Right. And clearly this is what happened.
Absolutely.
Right, in Brixton. So you grew up, what was the name of the council estate that you grew up in?
Mitesford Estate.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is it. So from all the research I've done, it sounds like this was the real deal.
Yeah.
It was notorious. What was at that time? What was it notorious for?
I mean, just violence. Mm-hmm. You know, there was heavy violence. It was like you would hear firearms being let off. So there was a signboard that basically says "Welcome to Mitesfield."
Okay.
And on that signboard, it had maybe about 15 bullet holes in it. On the signboard, it says "Welcome to Mitesfield." And literally, I ended up growing up, and I always used to think, how did those holes get there? You know, I ended up growing up and adding my own holes. Wow. You know, it almost became like a rite of passage that's what you test like the firearm out on.
Gotcha.
You know, so it's a mess. You know,
but growing up though, one thing that I know about your story, and I find to be actually not that different from the story of geniuses, is that at a young age you were considered to be literally a genius.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what age were you when you actually recognized that you were intelligent, you were smart, you were charismatic? When did you realize that you had something about you?
There was a bit of I got numb to the school kind of celebrating me, because that was from really early on. They identified it quite early on. Okay. Not in terms of the genius diagnosis, but I was in the top set for everything, and it came pretty easy.
Okay.
You know?
But what age was that around? You think?
I would say from like year 2, and I think you're what? 5, 6.
I've said, oh wow, okay. It's early.
Yeah, really early. I can kind of like, they gave me something and asked me like next week what they told me, and I could tell them. You know, and then they'll all clap, and then all of my papers will come back with just green ticks, smiley faces, and 100%. And that became, it was just the norm.
Got you.
You know, and I would read a lot of, like, my mother was a teacher in Ghana, and her mother a teacher before her. So she would just buy so many encyclopedias. Like, academia was exalted in my house, and I'll just tear through them, you know. And then it got to a point where I was actually teaching my older brother things.
Wow.
And he was 4 years older than me. You know, I could grasp the concepts more than he could at the time. So that was apparent.
Okay.
But what let me know that there was a real power with it and I was quite different was actually my imaginary friends.
Your imaginary friends?
Yeah. So I had a bit of, I've always been a sort of phantasmagoric sort of person anyway. And pretty early on, I had imaginary friends. And it actually kind of worried some of the people around me because, I mean, it was quite vivid with me.
Fascinating.
You know, yeah.
So they would travel with you?
They would literally travel with me. Like if I was on, like in the car was the time when a ninja would present himself. Like my mate, he was a ninja. And literally he would like run over cars and jump from building rooftop to rooftop. And he would keep up with the car no matter what pace it was going.
Fascinating.
And I'll just be watching this ninja somersault. And I mean, it was a thing. I could never get in a moving like vehicle and not see the ninja. And then if it weren't the ninja, it would be more kind of like big cats.
Okay. Yeah, like,
you know,
lions.
like lions
Yeah.
and tigers and jaguars. I was obsessed with jaguars. I just loved their coat. I just loved what they represented, you know, how they moved. It was majestic. So I thought, you know what, I would be watching it at home and I just wanted to bring it into school. So I did that and I got actually picked on. For it.
Because you saw, you were like, there's a lion over there.
I mean,
and
I'll be
like,
stroking it in
Really?
the class, yeah. And then like students would actually pick on me for it on some level, yeah.
okay, we're like,
You
Karl is
know?
crazy.
Absolutely, you know, but I enjoyed it. And then I remember one day, I really went for it. So I would only do it in certain places that I would deem safe spaces in school. You know,
Okay.
I had some insight, you know, that this is not going to be accepted totally.
Right.
But this day, for some reason, I don't know what happened. I just started doing it in the morning playground, out in front of everyone, and it became a thing. And even when they look, I didn't cover or cower. I just kept on going.
Right.
And then it got the initial ridicule. And then I mean till lunchtime, which is like an eternity when you're younger.
Yeah.
So we had like 2 periods. We had morning break, then another period, and then 2 periods, and then lunchtime, yeah? And I mean, till lunchtime, nobody subscribed. And then at lunchtime, something happened. One person started doing it too. And then literally 2 people started doing it. And at the end of the school day, I mean, every single person had an imaginary big cat.
Get out.
And that was the first day it spoke to me. That was the day I realized that there's something here.
There's something.
For sure.
Wow. You know, that story, I think, illustrates so much about your path. Because I think at that point, you recognize, okay, there was power within you.
Yeah.
But there was also power within you to influence.
Yeah.
Right? So now, walk me through, you're running around with imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Cats, lions. It's lions because you're hanging around with the Jamaicans.
No, for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you got all this, all that going on. You're considered a genius.
Yeah.
Family, stable.
Yeah,
Mom, dad
absolutely.
in the home,
Present.
working hard, present.
Yeah.
You got an older brother looking out for you.
For sure.
So then what happens?
Do you know
What
what?
happens?
It all happens, my man. Like when you're coming from certain communities and certain areas, you're just exposed to what you shouldn't be exposed to. I call it normal. I even will miss things in my story because even to this day, it is quite like it's trivialized to me because it's an everyday thing,
Sure.
but it's not normal, you know? So one of the abnormal things that I now recognize was the fact that my brother was being mugged daily. You know, like I could tell by the knock on the door whether he was, you know, under pursuit, you know? I myself, people were trying to mug me. You know, so I was getting to the age where it was happening a lot more. Like from 11 to 12,
Right.
now they're punching me in the face, trying to take my bike from me, trying to take the money my parents is giving me to go to the corner shop to buy, I don't know, like bread or whatever it was, yeah?
And I would imagine too, you're probably targeted too because you're a
I'm a
big guy. Yeah.
This is it. I
Yeah.
started to stick out like a sore thumb, and I looked older than I was.
Yeah.
So then they were approaching me, and that just kept on happening. My mother's car's being broken into. But I think one of the big turning points for me was that my father was a man. I must be honest, like a man that I admire because I never see him lose his cool, really. He's someone that likes to speak things through. He's quite a rational man. And when I was first attacked on my estate, he actually went to the house of the young man that attacked me, sat down with his parents and really tried to iron things out.
Wow. Okay.
And I thought that was amazing. I could see it. I felt a relief. And then when I was leaving, the young man that attacked me and his older brother from the window said, "Watch tomorrow." They mimed it with the hair. And I was like, wow, that don't work. You know? So then like those sort of happenings. And then my father would go outside when my brother was maybe under pursuit and try to tell them like, leave my sons alone,
right.
you know? And it got really risky for me because another young man's father was doing a similar thing in my community. Because young men was coming into the house and sometimes taking some of the PlayStation games, the video games. And on this one time, he went outside to tell them to stop doing what they're doing. It turned into a conflict. Someone stabbed him in his heart and he died.
Damn.
And I'm like, he's dead over a video game.
Right.
And I saw him doing the same sort of thing my father was doing. So for me, I'm like, my days, my father's like one interaction away from a knife in the heart and going,
Right.
So I was like, no, I got to fix this. And while I was having these thoughts, I also witnessed someone being shot when I was 12 years old, and then the shooter, after shooting the person, ran over to where me and my friends were playing ball games, literally took off his jumper, put it on one of our makeshift goalposts, and literally took a brick from the wall, put the firearm there, put the brick back, and made us play footy with him till the police came and went. And that was all around. I mean, I'm not speaking about a 5-year period. This is like maybe all within a year.
Got you. And you're 12 years old at this point.
12 years old. So my 12-year-old brain gets to ticking. How can I fix this?
Right.
And it's like if I can't beat them, join them. But I had no clout to even join. Like sometimes
because they're still mugging you at that
100%. I'm still there, I'm the awkward kind of, like even in my community to one point, there's been a huge shift now, but because the majority was Caribbean, I was actually picked on for being the African boy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So your family is from Ghana?
Yeah, from Ghana.
Right. And that makes sense too, because at that time, there's a heavy Jamaican in particular influence at that time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like we actually, as a gang, we kind of took over from like the Yardie epidemic.
Yeah.
So it was the Yardies that controlled Brixton initially. And then when we came up, we ended up taking them and they would kind of categorize us maybe as black reverts in terms of a lot of my friends were Muslim. There was a huge Islamic kind of theme with our gangsterism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So all right. So this is, all right, we're 12.
Yeah, 12.
Okay. At this point, and you see what's happening, potentially what could happen to your father.
Absolutely.
You realize that you want to make this change.
Yeah.
Right. You're inspired to make this change somehow.
Yeah.
What exactly do you do? Because this is what I find interesting.
Yeah.
Is from what I understand, you didn't just join. Yeah. Like you created your own gang,
for sure.
Your own situation.
Yeah.
So how do you do that at 12?
You know what? You just find other young men that are as scared as you. Like I didn't recruit like the creme of the crop. Like no, far from it.
It was anybody.
I mean, those that were in the same limbo. They had to have like kind of. They're getting fed up. They're having enough of this. They're at that point, but they haven't quite established themselves. But they've got like a drive and a desire. I will recruit you. We are in. We band together, and immediately, like just having company and fear made us a little less afraid.
Interesting.
So I'm like, my days, this thing works.
Wow. So you had basically a crew of misfits.
Crew of misfits initially, for sure. We were neither here nor there. We were just as scared. We were probably even more scared once we kind of banded together and publicly said that this is what we're representing, for sure. Yeah.
So at that point, then what do y'all get into? I mean, what was the move?
It started off really quite like juvenile, really very innocent. I was using school as a safe space to practice and to even rep. So we call it repping over here, like just representing or whatever it is.
Okay.
So I was doing that in school, not in any kind of violent way, but just us hanging together, us letting people know, there's different areas in my school, so they're now becoming a bit aware, we're all going home. And now all we're saying is no to being robbed. That was how gangsterism started.
Interesting.
So initially it was
defense.
just defense. It was like, no, you're not taking our phone. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be like, what do you mean we're not taking? And then it will kick off. That was our initial gangsterism. It was purely just defense.
Wow.
And then I started to realize that if you wanted to move it to a level of immunity, you had to go from the defensive to the offensive. And that's when me and my friends went from being victims to actually victimizing, you know. And there's a very famous railway robber in the UK called Ronnie Biggs.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's probably one of the most kind of, if you can say, celebrated criminals of the last century, in the UK. His grandson was actually my best friend growing up, a little mixed race lad, and so we banded together, and he was really good with the internet. So what he ended up doing is very early on kind of websites that were free. What we were doing as friends, hanging around with these new kind of introduction of mobile phones.
Right.
He was now taking some of the images that we were taking and capturing in our kind of residency and on our estate and putting it onto the internet. And then literally it started to really kind of get some traction. Yeah.
That's wild. So I mean, it sounds like y'all were basically branding yourselves.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's 80% PR.
Yeah, it's PR.
For sure.
So he was your publicist.
Yeah, he was the publicist, and he did a good job, and it was free.
Oh my God. So he's putting these images, so y'all are out there basically gangbanging.
Yeah.
But then you would take the images, put them online, and then what would happen when they're online?
I mean,
there's more clout.
People
basically
would start spreading it because he was someone. Let me rephrase that. One of us were able to bring in a replica shotgun into the UK. Yeah.
Okay.
And with this replica shotgun, we started now. We're posing with this shotgun. Now we're 13. Now we're posing with this shotgun. So we are now bringing it to certain events, doing things with it. You know, but it can't bang. It can't shoot. You know, it's not drilled through or converted. You know. So, but immediately we've started to kind of get a feeling of power.
Right.
You know, and when you're coming from, as I said, my parents were, I haven't mentioned that, but my parents were illegal immigrants. They came to the country. They never had no stay. So what it kind of, there's a feeling of powerlessness. It's a theme. You know, I like you, the aim is to be seen and not heard. You know, that's the theme, you know. And an antidote to that is brutality. You know, if you are quite brutal, it does give you a false sense of being powerful. You know, so we didn't understand it was actually ministering to this need because we did feel very displaced. We did feel very vulnerable.
Right.
And this kind of this falling in love, this lust with the violence and the firearms and the knives, it actually gave us a feeling and we just got addicted to it.
And you just continued it.
Continued. It went from replicas to actual firearms. It went from posing with them in pictures to making sure we are not photographed, you know. And it became our response. We wouldn't go to the Dallas shop, which was the chicken shop. We would not go without firearm. I mean, it was impossible. We didn't leave our house without it. I left my house every day with a level 3 bulletproof vest on.
Every day?
Every day. I got back
at what age?
Till this day. From about 16. Yeah, every single day.
So,
you know?
so talk to me about, I would imagine at that time, because your PR is great at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
That folks like people are joining.
Yeah.
Right. So you're growing in numbers. Yeah. You're growing in strength.
That gang actually, I had a mutiny. So I learned I learned quite early on leadership. You know. Okay. Yeah. So I had a huge mutiny with that gang. Had to dissolve it actually. You know. So I can actually say it now. The gang was called MAD. It was Mayhem and Disaster, and that gang there, I weren't leading properly. You know, it taught me that you can't be anything without the people that you're leading.
Wow.
You know, because it became a bit of a throne room for me, you know, because I was one of the I started the gang, you know, so in my head I've got a bit of a, you know, and I'm swinging some of my weight and I'm very good at fighting. And a fight was almost nothing in my community. So I would say if my friends cheesing me off, I'd be like, all right, let's just go outside. I'll take off my top and then I might beat him up and then I'm over it because we got it out of our system. I'm thinking, yeah, well, young bulls, you know, we've just let's get back to being friends maybe. And then they're holding a vendetta and then they actually really tried to put me down one time. And then that gang got dissolved and I was a nomad. I was homeless, no gang, no group for a little while. And then I thought, you know what, it's either evolve or be extinct. I was at a cross junction, you know. It was actually going the wrong way for me in that kind of industry, if you want to call it that. And I said, you know what, the only way I'm really gonna make some headway is if I join a blue chip in the area, you know, the main kind of, you know. So then I made that jump. you know, like I faked it to make it. Like I wasn't in initially. I just kept on kind of presenting myself, you know, and like they always speak about like the old model of a one initiation kind of thing that you do and then get you in. That's not it, man. It's like the fashion industry, man. Yesterday becomes redundant quickly. Initiation is every day. You know, you got to keep on go, you know what I mean? So I just kept on doing that. And then eventually I actually became this group, and I actually helped build its younger faction. Wow. You know, of this group, you know, and then so it was like more of an intrapreneur angle rather than an entrepreneur angle, you know. So they already existed, they had some clout, and this was also with the Islamic twang, you know.
So this is interesting. So because you got this Islamic faction, right? You've got Africans in the mix now. I'm sure there's still some Caribbeans there.
Oh, for sure. More, it's getting about 50-50 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at its height, right, when the gang at that point is at its height, what do you think in terms of, you know, and I like breaking it down as far as like numbers, because what I find to be most fascinating is you just talk about how you develop leadership skills, right, business in DC, right, where I live. Have you ever heard of Rayful Edmond?
I haven't.
Rayful Edmond was one of the most notorious gangbang / drug dealers in the United States.
Got you.
At his height, his empire was doing $300 million a year. So that's how much he controlled. His net worth was $50 million, US. And he was in his 20s. And what I always, and actually to this day, that was in the late 80s. To this day, when they knock down homes in DC, they'll knock down the wall. There'll be like $100,000 in cash will fall out because he couldn't launder the money fast enough. So they had to bury it, you know?
Unreal.
But what I always say is, damn, think about how much skill he had at 22 to manage this empire.
Absolutely.
So what? Tell me, what did the empire look like at its heyday?
At its heyday, it was. I'm trying to make the audience not like me. It was, you know, we were effective. Like it was still very much a street level gang.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like some grandiose sort of organized crime. You know, there was elements of it that had to be organized in order to, but it wasn't. It was still very much the wild, wild west, you know? But to maintain that power and to maintain that position, and I mean, we were all over South London, you know, so like we kind of spanned the entire borough, you know, so like it got to a point where there's an area called Thornton Heath. Okay. And there was a group, like we would have like an abbreviation of our actual gang name, and then the TH at the beginning to represent them.
Oh,
and then there was like
y'all have franchises.
I mean, literally, there was a Tulse Hill group as well, and we'll put T at the beginning of it to represent them.
Wow.
There was literally a Waterloo group, and we would put a W at the beginning to represent them. You know, like I mean, it really quite like I was arguably probably the most popular street level gang member in London at the time. You know, and yeah, even with the music, it accelerated our musical stance. I was kind of given a hood celebrity sort of status. Back then it was just Bluetooth. You know, I could release a song on Bluetooth, and in about a month I have cousins in Luton that will tell me that, the song's reached them. Wow. And I mean, you had to stand next to someone to actually send the song to the other person, you know? So literally like it was,
different day.
You know, totally different day. So literally like, it was happening. And like, we had our reputation. It was from being basically savages. Like we were we were what other gang members would even call savage, you know. So we made most of our money from robbing drug dealers. You know, you have to be a certain level of kind of like savage to be able to rob drug dealers. You know, you have to present yourself, and when you enter, you have to enter hard, and you have to be able to say that, you know what, these guys are also outside of the law, so there'll be ramifications from doing that act. But we kind of lived in a way where not that we were immune to those ramifications, but we could handle it. Right. You know.
So then, how in the world does the most notorious gangbanger in all of London, perhaps at that time maybe all of the UK, right? Karl Lokko, how do you then say no to all that?
Yeah,
I mean, because that's like, how do you say no? Because I would imagine at that. So how old are you at that point? At that transition point.
I'm about 18, 19.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
18, 19.
Yeah.
You're running the streets.
Yeah.
You've got money.
Yeah.
Girls, I'm sure, are
For
coming
sure.
your way.
Yeah. All the
I mean-
competitions, Premiership footballers.
See?
Yeah, for sure.
You have so why? Why change?
Do you know what? If I'm gonna be totally honest, I didn't want to change. Like I had manifested it. This is what I wanted. You know, I had this vision. You know, like obviously the byproduct of it is not what I wanted, but in
Right.
terms of it did, like they went from breaking into my mum's car to helping her with her shopping up the stairs.
Yeah.
You know, in my community, we can make Christmas happen. You know, like people will call me and say, "Oh, this is happening with my son or my daughter," and I can sort that out. You know, like the old ladies in my community see the police coming and will tell me. They'll be like, "Hey, son, didn't know," because they love us.
Right.
We are members of our community.
Right.
You know, we are giving back. You know, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and on this side we are freedom fighters. You know, so. And I used to see what I was doing in terms of being an evangelist for this thing. I thought I was actually handing out salvation. I thought I'm saving you lot's lives. I'm actually helping you. You know, like with the cards we've been dealt, this is the best way to get the most chips. You know, so I was very comfortable there. You know, so my actual coming out was, I wouldn't say an accident. It was the grace of God. It was totally not on my agenda. It met me,
Right.
you know, and it came through the form of a woman called Pastor Mimi, and her son was actually my right-hand man in the gang that we were in. You know, she wanted to save her son ultimately, you know, but she thought that her son was maybe out, smoking weed and doing other little
And not
kind of
listening.
stuff, you know. But he didn't even smoke weed. It was much more worse than smoking weed. He wanted to, you know, his only objective was to smoke people, you know. So
A lot
literally,
different.
like a
Yeah.
lot different, you know. So I always put it this way: she ended up biting off more than she can chew, and she chewed it anyway. That is who I would say Pastor Mimi is and what she did with us.
Okay, so
you know?
so she came in intervention.
Intervention. Even though I didn't want the intervention.
Yeah.
I didn't want it, you know. So she needed it. It was necessary for her. You know, I didn't know it was necessary for me till now, you know.
Right.
But I wasn't. So she wanted to reach her son. Mother-son dynamics hard to reach the son. So she thought maybe if she could reach one of his mates, it might cross-pollinate. And that's exactly what she ended up doing, and it worked. She was successful.
What when you break down 2 or 3 like concepts
Yeah.
that she used to really bring you back?
Yeah.
What were those? Because there's so many folks who want to go through. I've heard you talk about the caterpillar,
Yes.
butterfly,
Yes.
right? Beautiful analogy. There's so many of us that want to go through that metamorphosis, right? What are the concepts that she used that really worked?
I would say empowerment.
Okay.
She empowered us. So she appealed to my ambition, which is because I was very ambitious. Hence
Yes.
why we manifested this and created what we had created, you know. She said, "Why have Brixton when you could have Britain?"
Wow.
Yeah. And she meant it in terms of legitimately. She was like, "You lot kind of operate in the underworld, in the shadows. The mainstream ain't acknowledging it. It's not a contribution or a legacy you can leave for those once you leave."
Wow, that's deep.
You know?
That's powerful.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it really began to mess with I'm like, my days, we're risking our life for this. Like, we're putting it all on the line every single day for this. And they can't eat it tomorrow. And I wouldn't even want to feed it to my children tomorrow. Like, at the time I had no kids, but I was like, I know they're going to come eventually.
Right.
So I'm like, my days, I wouldn't show my son how to, rob drug dealers and to sell drugs and create lines. So I'm like, yeah, this maybe is not future. And it's the first time she got me questioning it and also got me feeling like I could be. She did that through biblical stories too.
Okay.
So she brought in David and Goliath. That was a big one that hit with me. It resonated with me hugely because Goliath for me was like the lack of social mobility. Goliath for me was all the kind of disadvantages that I had, like aesthetically, community-wise, my accent, you know, all my colloquial kind of speech, you know, the trauma I had gone through, all of these different things, you know, my socio-economic situation. That was Goliath.
Okay.
And she was like, Goliath can fall with a stone. And I was like, you know what, we haven't got anything else, but I'm sure we got stones.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I felt
Yes.
empowered. And on the flip side also, she showed me that gangsterism was a deception.
Deception.
Absolutely. I used to think I was a gang member, whatever we called that. I was a roadman. We call it in the UK. I was a roadman. I was road. She said, no, you're not that. You have embraced the ideology of gangsterism. You're not a gangster. It's an ideology. And she said, people are not what you do. People are who they are.
Right.
She made a big she differentiated the two. So if someone was a lawyer, they're not a lawyer. They do law. Like anything you did, she said that's not who you are.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, and
It's
when
brilliant.
she did that, it really kind of started playing with me. So I'm like, all right, cool. If it's something I've embraced and it's not who I am, maybe I can put this down.
Okay.
I don't want to put it down, but now I know there's an option to put it down, because once upon a time, I actually thought like, this is me, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, just on that journey, kept on going. And eventually she showed me that love conquers all, you know, and I bought into that, put it to the test.
Did you cold stop or did you transition off
No,
of it?
there's no cold stop when you're involved in what I was in. I mean, you're not allowed to cold stop. Like, I mean, yeah, you're just not allowed to cold stop. Like, someone will get like shot or stabbed, and there needs to be a response,
Right.
you know. And my community's looked to me in a particular way for so long that, you know, that it's almost like a responsibility, you know. And then also I've been kind of crapping where I've been sleeping for years, so it's a very smelly situation. So even me leaving my house, like, there's potential something can kick off. My door's getting kicked off by Trident, which is like the gang kind of section for guns and the rest of it in the UK, in London especially, actually. So the Trident know me very well, you know. I'm being arrested here and there, you know. Like, there's still like,
So it's a slow transition.
I mean, the transition was, I moved in with Pastor Mimi.
Okay.
Her home became like a rehabilitation center. I actually moved in with her, and I would say it took about 2 to 3 years to totally get out. Totally get out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what year is it when you were out?
Oh.
You were done.
I'm not sure what year it was, but I know how old I was.
Okay, how old were you?
I think I was 21.
You're at 21. So
21,
you're
yeah.
21.
Yeah.
Then what do you do? What's the job like?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, what do you do?
Yeah, the problem is there is no job. You know, it was an odd one. So it was the greatest thing and the worst thing that could happen, like all things, you know. It's got like, I love like the Chinese word for what is it, chaos and opportunities, the same, right?
Yeah.
You know, I love that. It was
the gift and the curse.
Yeah, it was absolutely that. Like, that's where we were, you know. I had been derailed from what I was involved. I had totally denounced it. I was out. I had publicly stated it. You know, people started to see me as a mediator, you know, a peacemaker rather than anything else. But now I'm left with a blank slate, and I don't have a pen, I don't have a pencil. My blank slate is not technically blank because it's really dirty.
Yes.
And even if you draw on it, you can't really kind of see the line because it's just filled with kind of like soot and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I
mean,
just
and
started-
you have no connections.
Nothing
at this
I
point.
got connections.
I mean, I'm sorry.
You know,
yeah,
for
you got
sure.
connections.
You know, but it's not.
But yeah, you don't have
You can
the.
get what you need, you know.
But you couldn't get what you needed.
No,
you
I
know what I
couldn't
mean?
get what I needed. No,
so,
for sure.
So you are like at. I mean, you're not even at ground level.
No.
You're
minus 10.
Minus 10.
I always put it as it's minus 10. For
minus
sure.
10. So
Yeah.
21 minus 10.
Scar on my face. 6'5", black man, lower socioeconomic situation. Like, I mean, I spoke differently. I had like, my lingual syntax is not what it was then. You know, I created this. You know, so like I didn't even know. I didn't have a bank account. Didn't have a signature. My friend got murdered a day before my GCSE exams, so I had no GCSEs. I just wrote his name on all of the answers. Like, I mean, it was a mess, you know, like PTSD to my eyebrows.
Yeah.
You know, like, you couldn't sit next to me. I would never do what I'm doing now with my back to a door.
To do it.
No way, impossible. Like, I sit there, you know,
Yeah.
and it was just a mess, you know. So Personal development. I know it sounds a bit like it was literally if you want to, it was personal development.
Like, I mean,
so
Tony Robbins, like,
I mean, some of it.
Really?
So what it got to was what was the genesis of it? So all right, I realized that in order to have more, I needed to become more. Yeah, and I sat with that. I like to ponder. I like to chew on things, you know, and I began to think about what does it mean to actually become more. So I did my investigating, you know, and that investigation led me to reading.
Reading. There we go, Karl.
Yeah.
There we go.
I read a book a week for 2 years.
A book a week?
Book a week for 2 years. Yeah. I mean it. And it was hard initially because I get to words I don't understand. I have to write down the word. But then it ended up creating another practice where I learned 10 to 15 new words a day.
Right.
Because as I'm just reading my 6 chapters or whatever it is that day, I now stumble upon words that I don't understand. And it's like potholes, you know? It's like, so in order for my car not to like, you know, so I had to really, you know?
Yes.
So I just started learning those words as I was reading those books, and it was just expanding my kind of the way I saw myself, I saw the world, and it made me know that there's a level of plasticity to who I am, that it can be molded. And then I thought, you know what examples do I have of molding myself? And I was like, listen, the ex-gang leader who was Locks, they used to call me. Yeah, Locks a Million, Baghdad's Giant, a general that like in that field. I created that person.
Right.
Like that's not who my mother gave birth to.
Right.
Like I mean, like I was a real kind of bookworm. You know, really scared. Like extreme mummy's boy, late bedwetter. Wow. You know, I had it all going in the opposite
You were
direction.
12, wet in the bed.
You know, 12 and wet in the bed, you know, relentlessly, you know. So like I was scared of sleepovers, yeah. So literally like, but yeah, I became that person.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can become again. So I just said, you know what? This is me becoming. And I got obsessed. It was a singular focus. And I just went for it. I mean, every single day.
Did you have a vision of, okay, I want to be
the most influential man in Britain? MIMIB.
The most influential man in Britain. So
that was it.
At 21,
you
had switched to that.
That was it.
And everything became about
everything. If it didn't feed into that, I didn't partake in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating because you basically put up your North Star.
Yeah.
You said, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And then you built the plan to
Absolutely.
it. So personal development was part of the plan?
Personal development.
What else was on the plan?
Do you know what it is? I took from what I was used to. So like in terms of biblically, it spoke about this person being a fisher of fish. I'll make you a fisher of men, which is absolutely an upgrade. Right. And I wanted an upgrade. And then Pastor Mimi also showed me in terms of David being a shepherd of sheep and then becoming a shepherd of people. Mm-hmm. And I just kept on seeing, I'm like, my days, like you can be a dreamer in the prison, but when you come out, like you can interpret dreams in the palace. Like it was always connected.
Yes.
So I was thinking, what did I have going for me on the street level? And mine was definitely relational power. I didn't know what a drought was.
Yes.
You touch me, you make a lot of people angry. You know, it was just, and that was based on relationships. Okay. So I said, you know, I'm going to superimpose it into this.
Interesting.
And then I became relationship focused.
Interesting.
You know, so I began to build a network. And how that started is that I used the stones angle, the thing that's free, and I could throw it.
Yes.
I started to think what's free and I can throw. And for me, it was email.
All right. So what was the first, I would say, relationship that you built, like cold relationship that you built that you were proud of? You thought, wow, I did this.
Yeah. I would say with the late Dame Tessa Jow.
Okay, tell me about that and how you did that.
Yeah, so she was previously the MP for Dulwich, which is quite like an affluent area in London.
Okay.
Which is also not far from Brixton, you know. She heard me speaking at a place and I went there purely, I took like with my pastor, I took about maybe 100 youth over there because we needed a place to run what the interventions we were doing in the community. And the place where we were using, they were telling us that we needed to get out. So I basically told them why they need to keep us in. I was not a speaker. I just spoke. She heard me speak. was so moved, it brought her to tears. She came and said not only does she want to help us out with this, but she said she wants me to do what I did in this room in any other room she's in. You know, so then I was like, all right, cool. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I'm a sort of guy, I'll say okay. You know, and I just said okay.
So you said okay.
I said okay. And off the back of that, like, she was a big part of like the Labour Party.
Okay.
You know, and then I started doing talks where they were speaking alongside Ed Miliband, who was the leader of the, you know, Labour Party at that time. And yeah, it was just kind of just alien situation. And then we developed a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you developed a relationship.
Yeah.
But I just want to break that down a little bit, because I think a lot of people wonder, well, how do I truly develop a relationship? Because a relationship is give and take.
Absolutely.
Right? So what are you strategically, what are you giving to that relationship? What's the value?
Do you know what? It was funny because it's been a weird thing.
Okay.
I read in a book, one of the many books, I can't even remember which book it was, but it says, when it's darkest, that is the best time for light. Yeah?
Okay.
And for me, I didn't see light. We can have our own kind of variations on on definition of what light is. But for me, it was the opposing thing. Darkness, light.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, I am entering a space where no one knows me and no one's like me. And I began to kind of realize quite quickly that made me valuable.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so many people shy away from that.
Absolutely.
They say there's no one like me. I don't want to go.
No.
Instead, you were like,
there, you're
go.
the only one.
Yes.
Like,
you're the only one.
I mean, like, they kind of stuck with me. You know? So, literally, like, I realized that. Like, they just they wanted someone that could, and again, changing my lingual syntax, a lot of reading. And then I learned there. I always say I'm trilingual. Yeah, and I can only speak English. Yeah, but I know, because I am a social commuter and I maneuver and navigate in the tapestry we call London and England and the UK and the world, because majority of the world speak English. Yeah?
Yes.
But I know how to speak their English.
Yes.
So I actually studied that. I can use my forks. You know, I can use my knives. Like
so you studied that.
I studied that.
Cleaning up how you talk.
100%.
You study all the social.
I am from Brixton. We could be having a normal conversation right now. Someone will think we're arguing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like, right, what's what you said? Hands are going off.
Yeah.
Like, you would
it's louder, right? Well, we're loud. Yeah.
And then they will get quiet, like, start, oh my days, look at what's going on over there. They think that's a spectacle.
Right.
I'm like, this is just a competition. I just ain't seen you.
Right.
You know
we're having a good time right now.
You know what I mean? So I started to realize. So I actually had to put myself in a blender, actually. You know, I had to change. I did. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't change. I had to change. I had to create an outward. So the inward, like, you can't touch that. But I had to create an outward communication of who Karl Lokko is that was palatable with this group.
Okay.
And I created that.
Okay.
So then it enabled me to be able to go to the parties, the bar mitzvahs,
yes,
the dinner dates, the coffees, the brunches, you know, the conferences. It enabled me to be able to come over for dinner and do all of these next stuff, visit the country home and all of this sort of stuff here. And then as I was able to do that, I became a bit of a conversationalist. You know, I made sure as I'm well read, I knew stuff, that I stayed well informed. Like, I subscribed to The Spectator, The Economist. I made sure I was in the know. So we could go, you know, like we could dance.
So now, how do you reconcile that? Because a lot of people will say, all right, I hear that.
Yeah.
But then he was selling out then, because at that point, he's someone who he's not. How do you respond to that?
Yeah. So I wouldn't have been okay with it initially. Yeah. Okay. And I did share that same sentiment. Yeah. Okay. What ended up happening was, again, another biblical story, yeah? It was Joseph the dreamer, yeah?
Yes.
And he, as a Hebrew man, has now come into another nation, which is, they're not Hebrews, yeah? They're not Israelites, yeah? Or whatever it was, yeah? And the Egyptians, the nation he's in, they were quite clean-shaven. Not even quite, they were very clean-shaven. Facial hair was something that was not deemed okay, you know? So when he was then being presented to Pharaoh, he then removed his facial hair.
Okay.
You know, and I was like, all right, am I my beard? It was one of these questions. It's like, what am I? Like, I was like, am I the JD tracksuit? But I'm like, that's no JD. That's their tracksuit. That's I wear that, but is that who I am?
Right.
I'm like, am I the tea? Now I drink black Americano, but I'm like, am I the black Americano?
Right.
You know, I'm like, first it was I don't know, McDonald's or whatever it is, or Dallas or the chicken shop or whatever it is. Now I'm eating like creperies. I'm like, am I the crepe? Am I the you know, I started to say, no, that's not actually who I am. You know, who I am is my core values. Who I am is my mission statement and my purpose and what I deem to be my contribution. You know, so I didn't let that get in my way.
Right.
Some people will be uncomfortable with it.
Right.
I must be honest. Like, it's not like they didn't learn my language. You know, they didn't. And as a minority, like, I believe that it's it is an overall in a utopian future. The desire and our collective destiny should be one of understanding. And even if you are part of the majority, you should dedicate yourself to learn the minority language and culture and all the rest of it. But we don't live in a utopia.
Right.
We live in London, United Kingdom in 2019, you know? So
it's a different scenario.
I had to learn it. Yeah.
So you, I mean, I think this is fascinating that you spent time, diligence, focused on in self-empowerment, right?
For sure.
And then your focus is most influential man in Britain.
For sure.
So now you make a connection that I think cements the fact that you have become, and this is the Prince Harry connection.
Yeah.
And this interests me. I will say this interests me on many different levels.
Yeah.
But one in particular is that you've got the son of South London, Brixton, right? Council estates.
Yeah, for sure.
Son of illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Meeting with the son of the royal family. And not just meeting, but connecting and becoming brothers, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
How did that happen? I mean, two people from completely different worlds.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? During my social commute, I did discover, I came to some reality. So I went uptown initially, on a mercenary level to bring resources downtown.
Okay.
Downtown was still, and that's why I didn't mind how much I shaved off my beard, because I knew it was going to bring resources, passage, solution to my direct community, But when I went uptown, I kind of anticipated meeting aliens, genuinely. Like, I thought I was going to meet Martians, for sure. Right. So I kind of went up there, I had my gloves on. I'm like, I got to be safe. Like, you know what I mean? I had my mask on, don't breathe their air, you know, like all of that. So I went there, and then before I knew it, like, I took off the mask and I weren't choking. I was like, oh my days, what, they breathe air too? Oh, they bleed blood too? Oh, they got fears too? Oh, what, they share love too? And I started to realize, actually, no matter who you are, no matter what your story is and where you come from, we all have more in common than in difference. I know that.
Right.
Like, I mean, you cannot convince me otherwise. You know, it's almost like on a DNA level, it's even proven. We have more in common than in difference. You know, so just understanding that helped me to be open in a way that was genuine. You know, human beings can tell what's authentic. Right. They're very good at sussing. It's like, that's crap, or, oh no, this is real, you know? Right. So I was able to go in there with a level of realness. You know, they could feel it on me, you know? And also, the streets helped me, because violence was my currency for so many years. The streets and my faith, it was a wicked combination.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because on one level, I had to learn to oppose, like I've had guns in my face on several occasions, you know? And I have had to, at that time, muster some sort of courage to tell the person there that basically, if you do that, don't do that.
Right.
You don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And at that moment there, to convince someone who's got the clear upper hand, you have to summon something, you know? And I got good at summoning that. So on some level, I had to become quite immune to status and what's happening, all the bells and the whistles. So that level of immunity, and also on the street level, like on the sharp end of the situation, no pun, it's a fact that you know that you can be here today and gone tomorrow. Like, human beings are very fragile. So it really humanized human beings being from the street, you know? And then that also coupled with my faith element, the fact that I'm like, listen, I stand before God every single day, and I'm like, you lot are just men. Like I spoke to God this morning, so I'm okay.
Right.
You know? So
Right.
that kind of coupled with that made me like, and they felt that, they feel it. Like I walk into a room and I don't come in as just like I'm from a council estate. I am council estate royalty.
Right.
Like we got royalty in common.
Right.
You know, so you're going to feel that on me. I'm going to flow with that. And yeah, we're going to be able to connect, you know, because there's no fear.
Right.
You know?
It was peers connecting.
For sure. Peers,
Yeah.
absolutely. Otherwise
Yeah.
you can't connect.
Right.
You know, it has to be that level of equal kind of, yeah.
So you made the connection with Prince Harry.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw you and Cassie. What you wore to the royal wedding.
Yeah.
I thought was phenomenal.
Thank you
I
so
thought you guys
much,
look
man.
good.
Thank
You look
so
real
much.
good. Real
I mean,
good.
first things first, right?
yeah. I was like, most important.
Yeah.
Your wife looked beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
You were all right.
Yeah,
we wiped
yeah,
that out.
good man.
but that you know, so the idea that okay, this is basically your boy.
Yeah.
Okay, this is basically your friend.
Yeah.
But you've continued with the connections, and I want
Yeah.
to talk about Richard Branson for a second, because
Yeah.
Richard Branson is someone who I think out of all of the entrepreneurs who have come out of the UK is probably, he has the highest level of status in the United
Absolutely.
States,
Yeah.
right?
I would say even in the United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom,
I would
okay.
say globally.
Globally.
On some of, coming out of the UK.
So there you
Sure.
go. So this is someone who around the world people actively want to connect with.
Yeah.
And I go online and I see you hiking mountains with
Yeah,
him and
for
hanging
sure.
out.
Annually,
and they go,
annually. Yeah.
So how did, were you intentional about making that connection?
No,
and then how did that
actually.
happen?
So by that time, I was already connected.
Okay.
So I spoke about Dame Tessa Jow,
Yes.
that initial connection. But what happened after that was a cluster. Yeah. So I ended up winning some competition, Big Ideas for London, create the UK's first therapeutic community gang rehabilitation centre.
Okay.
I wanted to create the space. They told me that they're going to give me a hotel room, a dinner setting, and I can bring people in, a dream team to create this and incubate this idea. I said, this is awesome. This needs to exist. Let's make it manifest. I ended up creating like a guest list of insane people around the table that I expected them to bring to the table. With this list, I gave it to them. They gave it back to me and said, no, we just provide the space. I was like, so how am I going to get them here? And I mean, it was the head of the Rothschild Bank, UK, Europe. I'm talking about, it was the Right Honourable Ian Duncan Smith, head of the Conservative Party. It was the biggest like superstar in the Britain at that time, pop, in terms of Plan B.
Okay.
It was the biggest PR man, the one that done Reebok and G-Unit. He launched Pokemon here. He did Orange Wednesdays, Rihanna River Island. He's like the main man, Mark Whelan. It was him. It was a ridiculous lineup. And I hit up to about 12 of them on email, their PA's PA, and out of the 12, 10 got back to me.
So you personally emailed them?
I did that personally. I didn't even have an email address. I had to make the email address to email them.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, this is the groundwork that I don't think a lot of people realize. They probably thought, oh, you had somebody doing that. Somebody.
Nah.
No, you were putting in the work. You had to identify the email.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I went on Google, found out little bits about them, made it personal, told them, listen, I'll meet them anywhere in the UK. And I meant that. I didn't even know how I was going to get there. And all I want is 15 minutes and a cup of coffee, which I will pay for.
And out of 12,
10 got back to me. Yeah.
Was Richard Branson on that list?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
And out of the 10, 9 got back. 9 met with me. At
Wow.
dinner. Yeah.
Okay.
So that started. I mean, my start was insane, and it just snowballed and avalanche from there.
Okay.
You know, so it's just been going.
Okay.
So like, if they like. Obviously, we know what's what. Like, even in terms of like a Forbes list, like if you know money, you know wealth is diversified globally. You keep money in different places. You can't really suss who's got what.
Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
Yeah. So like, if they were to do a list and say, oh yeah, the most kind of well connected, like I don't know, 30s, under 30s, or anything. If I'm not on that list, they don't know what they're really like talking about, because that was the beginning. That was 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
8 years ago, and you've just been building since.
I mean, one person introduced you to another, and the 1%, the 0.1% is very small in the UK. Very small. I mean, it's a small country in terms of like across the pond, cousins, the Atlantic. It's like, I mean, and then London is small, and then the 1% small, and I'm not even with the 1% mainly, I'm with the 0.1%, so it's even smaller.
Right.
Like, I mean, everyone knows everyone. The only other black guy in the room usually is Sol Campbell, you know, like, and he's there with the PFA, Premiership Football Association charity or whatever it is, and like literally, like, I mean, I was attending those kind of functions And I like to go out then as well. I like to be out in there to feel it. I like to socialize. So I mean, I was there, and it almost wouldn't be a thing if I weren't there.
Right.
It would be like, oh, when's Carl getting here? You know?
Really?
Yeah.
All right, so this is, you know, when you said that was your goal at 21, to become Britain's most influential person, most influential man in particular.
Yeah.
What I realize is I think you've done it. I think you've done it.
Not on some level.
I think you've done it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hitting me. Wow, this man has done this.
Yeah.
When you think about how the skills, the top 3 skills. Now, tell me what you think about this. So my wife and I, last night, were watching your TED Talk.
Yeah.
And we watched the TED Talk, and I was like, Jill, so my wife's name is Jill, and I was like, all right, Jill, what do you think? Where do you think his super skills are? Because I think everybody has superpowers. What do you think his superpowers are? And we made it a game.
Yeah.
She wrote it down.
Okay.
And then I wrote my what I thought were your superpowers down, 3. And we both said the same 3 things.
Wow.
Now
I'm curious as to what those 3 are.
What you think. So one is, we said that you have exceptional oratory skills, like top 1% in the world, oratory skills. Secondly is that you are incredibly curious. Your curiosity is off the charts, which that makes you of interest and then makes things interesting to you.
Yeah.
But then third, and this is fascinating, you're doing it right now, you always smile. You always smile.
Agreed.
You know, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm listening to you telling stories of like gangbanging, right? Devious stuff, but smile. I think the smile is so disarming, but it's authentic. Like, you're not faking, like it's a real smile. So between the smile, the curiosity, and the oratory, I think it puts you on another level. What do you think about those 3?
Do you know what? I must be honest, I agree. And I don't want to say it like me. I call a cat a spade a spade. In terms of like even oratory, my father was always the speaker. So I used to watch everyone in every party event. They will gather around my father, and he would be speaking, and he would have their attention subpoenaed for an hour, hour and a half. No one's moving, And I just used to watch him, and I picked that up subconsciously for sure. I watched him do it at every event. He would always have us by him, And then it went from there to on the street level. I fast realized that the most powerful weapon I had was my mouth. Like where in an environment where you would think it was the gun or the knife. And I'm like, no, it's definitely the mouth. You know, so I harnessed it then as well.
Okay.
Like I've actually spoken handcuffs off of my wrist with the police that have nicked me.
Wow.
Like literally, like, you know. So like it is like, I realized that then. Then in terms of when I went to go and speak, and then it gave us a space to do the work we were doing, which was our purpose, our mission. I'm like, my days, this has created this. And then the effect it had on the people and the introductions it made, I said, this can take you across borders like that men put up. And then I have an obsession since I was young with English. Like even I said that my friend was murdered before my exams, which he was. And I still got A's for my English literature and language. Like, I mean, that was the one test that I focused on. I actually went into the test, and no matter the pain, it was actually like, I don't know, it was like anesthetic. It actually, the English like helped me. I like the fact that sound has meaning. Like I'm fascinated with words, you know? So that's one part of it. And then also I had a mentor that actually told me at the beginning, he said, find 3 of the greatest orators that you've seen and you deem and just study them. And I did that also. And I just studied them, not by even taking notes out. I just watched every bit of footage they have that is in public kind of domain, hundreds of hours.
Right, looking at their cues,
I did
body
that
language,
every single day because I take things in, and as I say, I can regurgitate it when the time comes. So I just kept on doing that, and then it really hit me when I spoke alongside a group that Bill Clinton's group, and I know Bill Clinton's a great orator, you know.
I agree. You know? top 1% in the world.
Literally, and then his group was like, other than Bill, we vote you the best speaker we have heard.
Wow. Is this the Clinton Foundation?
I mean, it was the Clinton Foundation that was here. Yeah, it's crazy, Wow. I mean, like, the people there, I was like, wow, that's, for me, the penny dropped that day. I was like, all right, no, for sure. So in terms of oratory skills, 100%. The smile is just a part. If you don't smile, you cry.
Yeah.
You know, and I've realized it's funny, The smiling's actually, for me, on a deep level. I used to smile on the street. I would fight smiling. Mate, I know it's so weird, right?
But I actually believe you would fight.
Oh no,
smiling.
I fight smiling. I fight smiling. It's not like this smile. It's not a happy smile. And it was something about smiling. I don't know what it did chemically. It made me have control. So where they were kind of in anger,
right?
I was able to, because I was like probably the best street fighter in my community, and it was because I wore a smile.
Wow.
It was weird. So that's like kind of been the estimate of it. The smile just helps me to be in the moment. It helps me to be as calm as possible. So it's for me as much as, and then I need it as much as they need it. Yeah. So I just keep on wearing it, you know?
That's incredible. That's incredible, man. That's incredible.
So,
all right, so I see Jay over here.
Yeah.
Like, look, you better wrap this thing up. I just have 2 more quick things, Jay.
Yeah.
Just 2 more quick things. We've done 6 minutes. 6 minutes. So, all right, one is this. Now, when you think about Karl Lokko, the business enterprise, right? Or not even the business enterprise, but the brand.
Yeah.
What's included in that? And I mean, what because I think what will be of interest to a lot of people is, okay, this guy is one of the most influential people in the world. Influence and influencers, that title,
interesting,
because of social media. And you're not making money by posting but you're doing something completely different. You are truly an influencer. So help people understand, well, what is it that an influencer does? How do you monetize that?
Do you know what? I learned quite quickly. I have seen millions exchange over tables like this. Yeah? So I'll be at dinner of a friend's house. And I mean, they've just opened up a new, I don't know, chain of something. Okay. And they're speaking about, we've raised half of it, which is like 700K. We need the other 700K. And he's like, tell me more about it. Told him more about it and said, you know what, I'm in. I said, you get that tomorrow. And I'm watching the salad being passed and 700K. And I'm like, blimmin', that happened over the dinner table. Wow. Then I would be at like the counter at the bar, and then there'll be another exchange and be like, all right, you know what, I want you to come over to us in Chicago, wherever we're at and we're based, see what it is. And then later on, I might see that same friend and I'll be like, how was your trip? It doesn't matter, I went there, we end up working together, so we're merging. I'm like, wow, awesome. Then I go, and I realized contacts is contracts.
Contacts is contracts.
That's why I have no shop front. That's why people every day ask me, Karl, what is it you do? Because I don't need to do what I do online to be able, because I am offline. It's my contracts. It's my contacts. It's my relationships.
Right.
You know, like just now the gig I had in Atlanta, like I met that guy on Necker Island like last year. You know, it's just one of my contacts.
Right.
You know?
Richard Branson's Island, for all those
things. Oh, yeah.
What's that guy? My man, Richard Branson. I was on the island.
You know, I mean, but it's quite daft. It is actually, and that for me has been, like, I remember, like, even like certain artists in the country, like they weren't able to tour or they weren't able to get a certain venue. And then they went to that place and they had a discussion with them, and the owner of that venue will message me and be like, you know what, so-and-so wants to come, do you think it is? I'll call that said character, and then they'll be like, and I said, listen, you're going on my name, so make sure please nothing happens. Right. And I mean, like, all the owners, like, I tend to know them. So they do hit me up. Like I was on the phone yesterday to the guy that owns Brixton Village. Wow. Like, and we had already met. Like, we had mutual friends, and we were just chatting. And he was like, "Yeah, listen, I bought it a year and a half ago in Market Row." It's like, "Yeah, we should work together." I mean, over the phone through a friend.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just how.
Gotcha. It's almost as if, you know, you're basically connecting people, connecting businesses,
for sure.
And then there's a percentage that comes from that.
100%.
And this is a business area that a lot of us would like to be in.
Yeah.
But you got it because you've been putting in over a decade.
I mean,
of building the network.
I don't like, people see my 20s and think it's something.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're gonna see what I did in my 20s and my 30s. This is when it goes off, because I went for it from about 21 to about 27, it wasn't healthy. Like,
because of how hard you were.
I was doing 30 to 40 one-on-one meetings a week.
To build the network.
I was doing 30 to 40 one-on-one meetings on my own a week. Like, it wasn't actually healthy. Like I would, at the drop of that, I would respond, I would go, it was happening constant. It was only 27 that I actually took my foot off the gas. For the last, I'll be honest, like whatever it is, like since about 28, I've just been coasting.
Off of the work that
has
done.
been, if I'm being honest, you know. And then now I'm like, oh, I've seen what coasting does. Yeah, I'm like, all right, that's cool. Yeah, I'm tired of coasting now. So come now, like I've already started now, but come 2020, like, and I mean, what you kill in your 20s, you eat in your 30s, kill in your 30s, eat in your 40s. Like I believe that. It does take about a decade.
Okay, so you're getting ready to put the foot on the
gas.
I
mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what it's been about.
Love it. Last right here is, so now that you're preparing.
Yeah.
To go hard, like we would say, hard in the paint.
Yeah,
right.
Hard in the paint.
Getting ready to go hard in the paint, and you have all of this, experience.
Yeah.
Professional development. You already have an amazing network connection.
Yeah.
What are 2 or 3 of the areas that you're now focused on with regard to personal development?
Interesting. Blimmin' heck, you're going there.
Yeah. Because I want to know what's the future, Karl.
Yeah.
Like what is it? Because because you're a student of life.
Yeah.
So what are you studying now?
Yeah. No, great question. I'm actually gonna get into Krav Maga.
Krav Maga.
Yeah. The Israeli defense.
Yeah,
the for sure. Yeah. That's something that I've had my eye on for about a year. And anything that I have my eye on for about a year and I don't do it, it hurts me. So it's getting to a point where the pain's unbearable. So I'm gonna definitely do that. So I'm gonna sign up and get that done 2020. So that's on the physical angle.
Okay.
I'm also gonna climb some more mountains. I do mountain climbing, so I like that. I want to do some of the ones that have bested me.
Okay.
Revenge. So that's going to be part of it. I also really want to, me personally, I want to invest in being a husband. This year, 2020, I want to do that, whatever that looks like.
Yes.
For me, I really want to, because that don't come natural to me. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I'm a bit of a, I just get, so I want to do that. I would also say, in terms of spiritually, I want to really develop that this year.
Okay.
And I want to develop that in a way where I'm a bit more public with my personal relationship. I've kept it. People think it's public, but this ain't public for me. This is personal. It just is picked up by the public, but I'm going to be intentionally quite public. So in order to be intentionally public, I feel like I need to do more personally, and I just feel like that will be a huge area of development for me coming up. And then again, I just want to take my mastery of the English language to the next level.
Interesting.
I definitely feel as if it's not enough, for sure. I want to become more articulate. I just feel like doubling down on what you're good at. Like I don't do the, I'm not trying to get my 4 to a 6.
Right.
I'm trying to get at what I'm kind of like my 7 to a 9, because to get to the excellence field. So I'm going back to reading a book a week. I'm going back to learning 10 to 15 words a day. That is what I'm going back to 2020. So those are my main areas of development. And also I can let the cat out of the bag slightly. I've got 2 products launching this year.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, we're doing a bit more of that. I want to put. I've connected people. I've done it philanthropically. But I haven't had a hand at just pure business. It's been more introducing, selling my brand. But it's not been something external from me. So I want to have my hand at it this year. And a lot of people, everyone I meet, you see, when you meet more people, they'll be like, these skills are transferable here. You need to do this here, and it could create this and create that. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's give it a go. Mm-hmm. So 2020 is about 2020,
that too. Yeah. So, and with all that work in 2020, that means that the 2030s are going to be crazy.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
2030s for sure.
So I have a prediction.
Yeah, go for it.
I believe right now, I do think, I consider you the most influential person in the UK.
Yeah.
My prediction is that we're just going to replace the UK with the world.
Wow.
I think we're going to see it.
Wow.
I think you have literally one of the most compelling stories I've ever heard. And what I love most is that you said all of this that you've accomplished, but one area that you're going to focus on is being a better husband. That really hit me because that's the foundation.
For sure.
And that's the foundation in which we leave. That's what you're going to leave to your boy.
Absolutely.
That's going to leave to your grandkids.
That's the pattern.
That's it. For
sure. So we're going to get
Karl,
it done.
Man, thank you very much.
No, pleasure.
Incredible.
Thank you for having me, my man.
I appreciate it.
Living legend.
Thank you.
Let's go, man.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.